Let's pull up the harp. Okay, this button right here will make, I think I mentioned this before, but I like to close it because I usually don't have to use it. So I have a little more space. Okay, we're going to record from the beginning. This note right here I didn't like. I can solo it just to listen to that harp part. Okay, now with everybody. I think that's fine. I have been using this for quite a while, so it's not like I can read this thing like I read a piano score or anything, but after a while you just get used to, you know, if you hear a note you're like, oh, that's wrong, it needs to go up, down, or whatever. See how this tells you? It says E3, D sharp 3, D3. That's actually telling you where these notes are. So sometimes if you, like, for example, if you want to jump an octave, we're on G3, you want to go to G4, just follow that thing and then it'll tell you, it'll point you where you're going. Okay, and the last one, we're just going to put a chorus on. Let's see. Okay, if you think your track is a little loud, just the very basics. This is your instrument track, and this is basically your master track. So this will influence all the tracks. If I move this fader up and down, this is the volume, and this will just influence the track that I'm currently highlighting. So I'm thinking that this is going to be a little loud, so I'll just put it down 2 decibels and record. Okay, delete that. And I think that's it for MIDI. There you have it. I mean, that's, oh, sorry, one more thing. This is probably gonna confuse you if you come across it. Now notice how when I zoom in here, I'm looking at the choir one. It played. Let me solo. I'll press S so it solos. Now it played right after the downbeat, which is great because it'll play. If when I'm recording it gives me the 4 counts, if I play this before this actual downbeat, then it won't play. So have a listen. Because it's coming straight like through the note. So sometimes when you're playing, you'll play just a millisecond before the actual downbeat happens. So if that happens, click and hold on them and click and drag so that it's lined up perfectly so that'll play. So it sounds like that. Okay, so this is pretty much it for MIDI. Let me just play the whole thing for you. So those are the basics of MIDI. With that much information, you can totally do a whole lot. You can make a lot of great music. You just browse through this thing, browse through some of these instruments, and make a lot of music. There's a lot of great stuff. Now let me talk about audio. And so open up this this plus sign, click on audio, and let's say just 1. Now notice that you get a blue track instead of green track. Blue tracks are audio, green tracks are the MIDI. Now just as a side note, if I double click, so all 5 of these are MIDI. When I double click in here, it gives me a new MIDI track. If I double click when this is highlighted, it gives me a new audio track. So just so you know. Okay, So audio are for things like microphones, guitars, loops, and anything that's already pre-recorded, like an MP3 and AIF, stuff like that. You're not going to be using your MIDI keyboard for this. So let's see. See if I have okay, here's kind of a bigger file. This is an it's an AIF, which is an uncompressed. It's kind of like it's pretty much a MP3. It's just a huger file. It's not compressed at all. So all I gotta do, if it's on the desktop, I just click and drag, and it will create my file. Okay, notice that it doesn't play until down here, so let me cut it up for you and then drag it over. Cut it, delete this, empty space, and then you can hear it. It's just a trumpet playing something else. Okay, so any kind of MP3 that you have, just click and drag it and into this audio. Do not click and drag it into this green MIDI, because that will not play at all. Okay, if you press O, that will open up your loops browser. Now this, you got 20,000 loops on this thing. It's really an awesome thing. They got everything from drums, techno, Arabian, sitar, Celtic voices, ambient synthesizer things. They've got jazz. I mean, they got so many things here. It'll take you hours and hours to listen to just a fraction of them. But the way you get to things, you can type things if you know what its actual name is, or if you want to zero in on a style or the instrument, you just click on things. So let's say I want beats, and so it'll start to narrow in. Now we have 2,000 left, and I want processed beats. So all these are processed beats. How there's like a billion of these, and this is just a fraction of them. And all you got to do, if you want, let's say you want this one, you just click and drag, and it's ready to go. Let me solo it for you so you can hear it. If I solo it, it's going to play with everything else. They fit with the style, but you see how this works. You can make all kinds of crazy stuff, and it'll be real fun. The difference between the blue and the green is these are audio loops and these are MIDI loops. So here's another trick. Let me delete this. If I click and drag this, and I don't click and drag it to this audio spot, I click it to this empty space, it will automatically create an empty audio bin and put this thing in here. I click if I click and drag this with the green one, it'll load up a MIDI one. Let me solo this. This is what it sounds like, but it's coming from a MIDI source. It's coming from these drum kits. And if I play on the MIDI keyboard, you can see it. And if I double click it, you get the piano roll just like I have, before. And when it's made like this, when it's these MIDI loops, I can change things. I can change the notes. I can do whatever I want, just like as if I actually played it through the keyboard. So that's really, really nice. If I were to click and drag this green loop into a blue audio track, it will just instantly change it to an audio track. So take a look. It just converted it. So now it's no longer a MIDI region; it's an audio region. And if I try and click and do the audio into a MIDI one, then it won't play. It turns green, but it still won't play. Let me solo it and try and play it. Yeah, it doesn't play at all. Okay, so that's how you find loops. You can also record through your guitar or your mics, but I'm not going to talk about that today. Just the basics of audios. You can use those things. You can use loops. You can have a ton of fun. I made a video a while back, 8 minutes. I made music for a video, and it was like 90% no, not 90%, 80% loops. And if I didn't have those loops, man, it would have been so hard to fill up 8 minutes. But I was able to pull together a lot of music just from these loops. Let me show you some of the favorites that I've accumulated. Favorited for some of the projects I've worked on. But yeah, just take a lot of time and go through that. There's so many things, just with what you know right now. I think there's so many things that you can do. You can spend hours on this, and this is just the beginning. So I might be able to spend more time making another tutorial on more detailed things, like some of these inserts, some of these effects. But this is the very basics. This is what you need to get started. Start making stuff. Start recording over it, editing it, and that's it. Sorry. Okay. For the last part, the last thing right here, I should show you how to export these as MP3s. Okay. All you gotta do is press B. That is bounce. Bounce is the same thing as export. So press B. And you get this menu. Title it whatever. Put it on the desktop. Now the difference between these things, MP3, you know, MP3 is a compressed thing. It's a very small, compact, very nice file. If you click on PCM, you have these other options. AIFs and WAVs are uncompressed files. They're very, very big files, but they're uncompressed. I usually, unless someone really, really wants an AIF, or if I'm working on a project that needs to have a completely lossless quality, I will use MP3s just because it's faster and it's less information. And then all you gotta do is tell it where to start and where to end. Now it's starting at 1, bar 1. Some of these numbers are a little confusing to get used to, but the one on the left are the big numbers right here, and it's ending at 130. That's kind of the default. 130 is way down the line. You don't want that. You want it to be, let's say, at 10. So double click right here and change 130 to 10, and so it won't be exporting empty space. So it's from 1 to 10. Keep it offline. Normalizing is when, if you played it really, really quiet and it's not very, very loud, normalizing will boost up the levels so that it's loud enough before it actually starts to distort. But I don't have to worry about that, so I can just leave that how it is. Then I press bounce, and it bounces it, and then it changes it to an MP3, and now it's on the desktop. And now it's a QuickTime file. It's just a QuickTime MP3. So basics of Logic. So hope you understood, and hope gets you excited to make some good music. So good luck.